back, everybody, to Encountering the Unknown. This is episode 3. We call this one The Awakening, which is very exciting for us, and talking about our trips to Gettysburg in fall of 2017. And before we mention back to Gettysburg, that was the first year I think we actually opened our prayer to Archangel Michael at the beach in Ocean City, New Jersey, where we generally would go once, for a week every summer around June. And what do you think about that when we did the prayer there?
So that was a crazy time, because that was like the beginning of all this stuff, or like right after the beginning that I had seen some pretty weird stuff. And then we went to the beach and tested it out again. And then I remember that time I didn't see anything, but when we took the pictures, that's when it was the same reaction that we had at Gettysburg, and it was like more concentrated when we were at the beach. So,
and I think, which we'll see in later episodes too, it was the water, the mist off the ocean.
Yeah,
I think really played a part in which we'll put a few pictures from the beach. Of us standing there, and you can actually see faces, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that was like June of 17.
Yeah, definitely. After that, then it gets pretty crazy, because then it was the solar eclipse in August.
It was I think it was August 21st, 2017. We went. I think it was a Thursday.
Yeah, I think it was a Thursday, and I remember the cutout box and everything.
Yeah, so we wouldn't be blinded by the light.
Trying to check it out.
And we thought that would be a good paranormal day. It was a beautiful day, sunny.
Yeah, no, it was
hot. But when we got there, we got some stuff, which we will put a picture on also, I think at the bridge, the Sachs Bridge. But it wasn't crazy like we thought it would be, correct?
Yeah, no, it was, you take everything for granted, kind of.
That is true. If you get one picture, you're happy, that's amazing.
But it was definitely one of our more calm and just kind of like chill days. It was kind of like we just went, we were expecting a ton, and then it was kind of like, they were like, whoa, slowly your boat there, you gotta calm down a little bit, because we were kind of like, in the beginning we were like, what is this? It was kind of like a drug. We were like, we want more, and then like a couple times it was like we were stunted almost in the beginning. And that was normal though. That was like, it happened a couple times and we were like, all right, we get what's kind of going on. We didn't know exactly what was going on, but having a picture that has anything in it is truly, crazy, and anyone can talk about like the one picture they have. So having anything is truly crazy.
Of a mist or like an eye or face in the window or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember because we talked about in the last episode, I was like, I have the camera, and we talked about that. And I became not addicted, but obviously when you take pictures,
it was instant gratification. So a little bit it kind of was.
Well, yeah. Obviously, we're trying to get the best picture, and we were both in awe of what we were getting. So every time we would go, we would get stuff, and that part was truly awesome.
Yeah.
So let's get to the day after the solar eclipse. It was August 22nd, 2017.
Yeah, Friday.
Yeah, and we brought our good friend Tom, who came with us, and I think we got there late afternoon or something.
Yeah, something.
And I remember we were at 20th Main.
That's where we started off, or yeah.
And down into the woods by the 20th Main Monument. B Company, 20th Main. Colonel Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. One of our heroes, obviously. So what happened that day? Do you remember? You recall?
So I remember that was a pivotal point in the whole story, because I remember there was a storm and everything. We did the prayer like usual, but then I remember like the storm was kind of delayed for a little bit, and then all of a sudden it came out of nowhere. We had the canopy from the trees above us, but this was the first time that I could see whole apparitions, kind of. Like, I remember when we were all standing around that big tree that had the nails in it, which is
Right.
kind of like it's southeast a little
Is
bit.
it to the
from
right of the little monument?
Yeah, so it's southeast of the little monument,
So
and
people can see
you guys
that.
will know where it
Down
is.
in the
Just
woods.
feel around, and
Yeah.
you'll feel the nails on the tree, and you'll be like, "What's that?" But yeah, no, we were there, and then like I remember hearing the rocks being thrown,
I
branches,
think all of
the
us,
rebel
and
yell.
Tom, we'll get Tom on
All
to,
three of us could hear this at this point, and it was,
to confirm too.
you know, it was just such like raw power or energy that
Yeah.
was happening, and we were kind of all like,
It
you
was
know,
windy, it was rainy,
Yeah,
it
no,
was
it
stormy,
was-
lightning and thunder, and
it was
yeah, we could
crazy.
hear
It was the
rocks
whole
flying.
thing. It was like a mix of everything, and
we all heard it too. We all heard the rebel
Yeah.
yell. Tom heard that too.
yeah, it was just
which-
so like manifested.
Yeah.
They had so much power from that cell that had moved through that they were able to do that, and then I don't know if that's what caused them to be able to show up full
Yeah,
or full lead, because I remember we were standing around the tree, and then all of a sudden I saw one side come up from the ground. So these are all guys just coming out of the ground holding their guns like they would have, as almost if they were like charging or getting ready to walk into battle, and they were like dirty already and stuff. So I was kind of confused at that point, because I was like, what's going on? And seeing like full apparitions walk out of the ground, that really messed with my mind, kind of.
and how many were there?
Oh my gosh, it was just rows on rows on rows. It was like, you know, as far as you could see in that little area where it was all like trees and stuff, you know, that's all I was seeing. I was seeing people, like they were between the trees and stuff.
And the wall, there's a
And
wall
yeah,
there.
so
that
it was
marks,
weird. It was
yeah,
very
the end
kind of,
you know, where the
strange.
Union were standing.
Yeah, right on beyond that little marker.
Yeah,
That goes down, and they were all there. So it was like, on the one side first, it was like just looking around, being like,
excuse me.
what's there and everything.
And I remember what was the amazing part there, as Paul was, you know, discussing this and telling us what he was seeing. I remember when we would take the flash with the camera we have, I could see like all these sparkles, thousands, and on the viewfinder you could see it. And Tom, our friend, could see it on the viewfinder, but then Paul could actually see them. We
Yeah.
could not see them.
Yeah, no, it was definitely weird when, like, I felt like I was kind of almost like an outcast, but I was kind of like asking you
Excuse
guys, like, you know, what's going on? Like, are you guys seeing this? And you guys were like, at first it was kind of like, yeah, but then you realized what I was saying
Yeah.
wasn't the same thing that was lining up with what you guys were seeing. So I was like, you know, I'm seeing this. And you guys are like, well, we're seeing this, but not that. So it was kind of weird hitting a pivotal mark like that. And it was just so
Hence
real.
the awakening. That's why we
Yeah,
chose this
and
name.
it was so real because
Was
first,
it both sides too? you
Well,
were
yeah,
saying?
like
First you said
it was the
Confederate guys?
Confederate, and
So
they showed up.
So they were like, explain, I guess, to the peeps,
Mhm.
like what were they dressed like, the Confederate guys?
Well, so I remember the Confederates being like, you know, some of them had forms like the gray or like some brown or tan, but not all of them. That was the minority of the group. Majority of the group had, it seemed like, farmers' clothes or whatever they could scrap up. And I know that sounds like very stereotypical, but that's just what I was
That's
seeing.
what they are.
Like,
that's what they were. They were fighting for freedom.
Yeah, and that was just like what I could see. Like I saw, one thing that I saw a lot were suspenders and like kind of like a white shirt, like a puffy shirt, almost like a pirate. If you were to explain
Mhm.
what it looked like,
Yep.
like I don't know what kind of material that is, where it's like really puffy, so you couldn't even see your arm, and it like cuffed at the wrist basically. And that's what I saw. Most of them had that with hats, and
What kind of hats did they have? Do they have the kepis, or only a few of them?
only, I would say, minority had the kepis. Because, I mean, when you think about it back then, that was like, they made the kepis for like a group that were almost trained to basically train the majority of the group, like going around to the southern states, looking for farmers, looking for able bodies to fight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So, they had to have their commandos or highest military training those people, or who they thought were their highest military training those people. And so they would basically mark them up as the highest military by giving them uniforms and stuff like that. Whereas, like, the farmers would just have whatever they had.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, their hats and stuff, I would see, like, the big brown hats, like, expanding like this, or you'd see, like, a straw hat, or something that was just, like, seemed more common than a kepi, where a kepi was literally just like that.
Yeah.
It looked like a, like, really retro-style baseball hat, like, extremely retro. And it was just strange to see how many had, like, what they would have worn probably every day just to do normal work, whereas, like, the select few were wearing what they were, like, made to wear for this whole occurrence. Like, the whole Civil War, they were like, you're gonna wear this, you're gonna be the one in command of all these people, probably. And it was probably strange, because at the same time, you're a marker for the other side.
Yeah.
Like,
try to
that
take
one's
you
wearing
out.
something different from everyone
Like a
else.
general or a captain
So-
or a colonel.
And even with the northern side, you had the little epaulets on the shoulder,
Yeah.
and they saw the little frills dangling off, and they
Yeah,
were
and
probably
the
like,
hats,
"Oh,
too.
yeah, you
Yeah.
had a strange hat."
Yeah.
Like, everyone was probably like, "What's that? Let's take that guy out first and just see if that makes any difference in the morale and courage of these guys." But
So, do you remember, Paul? Were they looking at you like they were coming out of the ground, and they were like, did they appeared to be like ready to fight? You said they had guns, but holding their guns, right? Not aiming their guns, or were they?
yeah, so I remember when they were first coming out, I remember making eye contact with multiple of them. It wasn't like every single one, I was like just looking and scanning through.
Yeah.
But it was like, I remember when I would look at some, they would look at me. And it was like when you make eye contact with someone, like sometimes it's awkward and you're just like, you look away quickly and you're like, okay, I made eye contact, that's a real person, obviously.
What did they like? Did they look alive? They looked, I mean, they had, the skin looked normal and.
Yeah, so they looked like you and I, but they were just like dirty.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, they
if I had
hiked many
rolled in
miles
the
to
dirt,
get there. It was 90+ degrees right on those days of battle, July 1st to 3rd, 1863. So, it was crazy. I remember the sound and the thunder and the rocks hitting rocks and sticks flying and stuff. That part was crazy.
Yeah.
That we'll never forget. But did you hear their voices at all? Did you hear anything?
Well, I remember, like, thinking, kind of like, when you're in a group setting, and it's kind of just like, you're hearing everyone kind of talk. Not loud, but, like
mumble or
almost like
conversation.
at a concert before anything has happened,
Yeah.
where it's just like, murmur,
Yeah, you can't
like the
tell.
murmur, or whatever it is. It was kind of like that, where everyone was just kind of talking, but it wasn't so loud that I couldn't hear. It was just kind of like I could hear some stuff, but I couldn't make out.
Now, was
total.
that, like, you had never heard them talking before yet, correct?
Yeah, no.
At this point?
No, so this was a change where
Early.
It was like...
You were seeing whole body
It was
apparitions.
whole body, and then
Yes.
it was the vocal manifestation also. Where it was like, to me, it was like how we are talking.
Yeah.
Like, I see your mouth moving, I hear the words that are coming out of your mouth into my ear, or ears, and I can hear that. It's not just like... You're going like, and I can make out what you're saying, because no one can do that.
Right.
It was like, we are talking, and I'm hearing you. That's exactly how it is. That's the only way I can describe it as.
But you
So-
weren't hearing that then. You just heard the, like,
it was
muddling of
Like,
sounds. Yeah.
It was like a bunch of people talking at the same
Yeah.
time. It was just
Were they
like,
looking at each other? Were they looking at the, their counterparts on the other side?
well, so
Because I
like,
remember you were nervous. You were very nervous, and you said, I think
Yeah.
they're going to fight, or you weren't sure. You were kind of worried. I
so
remember
in the
that.
beginning, I remember it was the Confederate for a little bit, but then on the other side, so it was like we were standing here where this microphone is, and the Confederates rose up from this side, probably encompassing like all that. And then on the opposite side, the Union showed up. So it wasn't a matter of who was behind the wall. It was more so
They're all right
divided
there.
in the middle
Yeah.
space.
So it looked different from how the layout is now.
So it was
I
a little
remember you telling me
weird.
that.
And I remember I was like, what is this? Because then the Union showed up, and I didn't know if they were going to fight or what, because then it kind of went silent a little bit. And the Union, like, this is going to sound stereotypical again, because they were like, oh, Union had mostly uniforms and stuff,
Sure.
which I remember seeing most of them did have uniforms,
Yeah.
or like knockoff. Like, they had the pants, but they didn't have the shirt,
Mm-hmm.
where they had the shirt and, like, they just had, like, brown pants on or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like a mix and match. And obviously back in that time, in the climate of that time, you know, who's wearing like the whole outfit and dying of
Wool.
sweat?
Yeah, wool.
Like, I know I would not be doing that. I'd be like, you know, give me a sleeveless and I'll be fine to fight. But,
Yeah.
I mean, so in the beginning it was very tense because I was like, you know, we were all around here and you have the Confederates from this side and the Union here, and they were like
And they were
right
just
up.
looking at each other?
In the beginning, I remember they were just like looking at each other.
Did you see any horses? Did you see any cannons? Did you see... And down in the woods, I don't think they had cannons. Down behind Little Round Top. And I
Yeah.
know Big Round Top, they didn't... they weren't able to get the cannons up on Big Round Top. So it was mostly just the men.
So I remember when we were down there, I didn't see any cannons or any horses. I mean, which one could argue that, you know, historically, there's no way that someone could get either of those through there without having, like, immense difficulty.
Cutting trees down and all that, which they didn't have time to.
Yeah,
when this
no,
all
it was very
started.
quick, because when you're the flank of the flank,
Yeah.
you're responsible for
For right at
defending
the
the
wood
people
line, yeah.
who can do stuff
True.
like that.
Or right at the wood line, the
yeah,
end line.
you
anyway.
can't be doing that.
Right.
Like, you got to be there stationed, and you got to be observant of what's going on all
the
the
woods.
time in Texas and Alabama.
And just think in July, August time frame. So the
Oh my
battle,
gosh,
obviously,
that's
July
like the
1st,
height of the
everything
heat.
is grown and blooming,
you
and
can't
all
see
the
shit.
leaves. I mean, so the canopy
Yeah.
must have been huge there.
Oh my gosh, it'd be like looking through, like, do I see a guy, and then all of a sudden a shot goes right by your face.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
well, I think I saw a guy, and I may have shit myself a little bit. But, I mean, it was so real seeing that because, like, back
the
then...
courage that they had. I mean, to
Yeah.
fight at close range and some
Well, it was
bayonets.
disciplined,
And,
kind of. Like, even though the whole bayonet charge happened when they ran out of ammo, but they still have the discipline to march up there in their lines and everything. Whereas, like, thinking now, I would have been like, don't do that at
Right.
all.
Guerrilla
like,
warfare,
Guerrilla
yeah.
warfare.
But
like,
that started
surround
sort of
them.
in the trees. They started hiding behind things as people went down, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Not like, where Pickett's charge, they were all out in the open, but
Yeah.
this area was, like Little Round Top, climbing up the rocks and stuff. So,
Yeah.
so you didn't see horses, you didn't hear them, but they were all looking at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Did they, so everyone looks like an individual, obviously. Every
Yeah.
face was different. It was just all, but you didn't see, duplications of the same person
No.
or anything like that,
No.
right?
No, I never remembered seeing anyone wearing the same thing,
Exactly.
same face.
Exactly. Some
Or
had
it was
goatees,
going
glasses.
into like New York and just looking
Looking around.
around,
Okay.
stopping and being like, who's here? Like seeing your surrounding, being like, okay, I see all these different people.
Yeah.
What's going on? Stuff like that. It wasn't similar.
It was just all people. But
Yeah, it was just
as
different
people will say, and when they see our pictures, as we put more out there, some of them, they look similar.
Yeah,
But they're different. If you look in and blow them up, their eyes are different, their
yeah.
face is different, facial features. But it's weird because we mostly get their faces, not the bodies.
And what is the most identifying part of a
It would be
human?
our face.
It'd be our face.
Yes. And that
So-
that's important as we'll talk about that later though too. So
Yeah.
so that day, so I remember when there was a little lull in the lightning, we ran to the car.
Yeah.
You know, and got in there. We were soaked.
Yeah.
And that was like a magical moment for us all that we'll never forget. And again, you know, in the coming, you know, weeks, or, you know, once I get in touch with Tom and get him come out here and talk about his experience, I think that will confirm, you know, what we're talking about also. So I think, you know, each time we go there, I mean, every time it's like it's hit or miss. We don't know. Is it going to be the jackpot? You know, that's why, you know, like anything else, like gambling or whatever, you just get so pumped up to go. We brought many of my patients and friends and family, local judges, firefighters, police officers, doctors, lawyers, you know, everyday people. I mean, all people that, you know, from all walks of life, and all religions too. And they've come with us, and, you know, we're going to bring some of them on eventually to talk about their experiences. But so after that great night, I think it was we went back probably every couple of weeks, every 2 to 4 weeks, I think.
Yeah, no.
And we have pictures, and I think I'm gonna put one in from September of 17 also, when we went with some of our other friends. And you can just see all these faces above us as we're walking in the field.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So anything do you want to add to that? Anything that you can recall?
Distinctly? I'm trying to think.
I think one thing that I bring up is that's when you saw them climbing up Little Round Top, remember?
Yeah, that was what? It was like fall?
That was like September, I think.
Yeah, so fall of 17.
With our friends, yeah.
And yeah, no, that was pretty cool, because obviously it showed that the full apparition didn't stop.
Yeah.
But then it sort of advanced a little bit, because it wasn't just like you and me where there's nothing like
there was battle going on, right? There was a battle.
Yeah, there was a battle, but then there also was a hue around what I was seeing. Like the full bodies, like, you know, I'd see like
they look solid.
A light blue around everything now.
Like a few inches, or
which yeah, no, it was definitely like a few inches probably. I can't even say how many it was exactly, because
was it fluid, like if you were looking at them
moving?
Yeah, or just when they were standing there, was the hue moving, or was it like a solid thing, you know, and then when they moved, it moved with them? Or was
it forming. I would describe it as forming.
Like
so
sort of
whatever
fluid,
they did, like if they went like this or like did this, like you would see it change with the way. Okay. It seemed like it encompassed the outline of where they were. So it wasn't like you'd see it here, there. It seemed like it was on the outside only. Which, I mean, you like see that and you're like, well, what's that? Yeah. That's definitely distinct and different from anything I've seen.
Yeah.
But then that started to happen frequent, and then I was kind of like,
each time we opened the prayer, that you started, you could
immediately,
because I remember you would say, what is it? Oh, I see like a purple visual change.
Yeah, that was almost
that purple,
like
or what was
that was almost like I was wearing purple sunglasses or purple lensed sunglasses, because it was a shade of purple over my eyes when I was seeing everything was like a shade purple, if that makes sense in any way.
Well, I remember you describing it and talking about it.
And I was just like, you know, you don't question something like that when it's started happening from the beginning of all of it, really, and just kept on progressing with you. Because you're just like, you know, this is a change, basically. and I'm not gonna be like, what's going on right from the bat. Most people, and I was like, what is this? But I never wanted to be like confrontational about it. Be like, what's about this purple hue, or why can I see you guys with this little outline on your arms or anything? That was not a question at the time, because when you're seeing things that shouldn't be there from different times, you're kind of just like, oh, like, what's that?
Well, and like what Paul's talking about, he was like our conduit to the other side. It was
basically,
it was truly like phenomenal. And what I'll probably do eventually is we'll do like a lot of put some of our video clips from when you were younger talking, because I recorded most of them. And then you can hear what he's describing, what he sees. Because when we were taking pictures, we could see beautiful orbs, different color orbs, which I'll put on, on the podcast and the pictures. But Paul was telling us what they were telling him. So when did that start? When did
telling?
Where they could talk to you and you could talk to them? That was soon after that. I think, was that in the fall of 17?
So, I think that was distinctly in the fall of 17, because before that I could hear them before I saw full apparition, like when we were at the higher 20th Main area, so A Company, and
where the big monument is there.
We saw all the guys, and I saw the kid hiding behind the tree, and
but it was more the
heads.
It was the heads in the last episode, yes.
And then it became the full apparitions where I heard the secondary talk. I'll just say
like a few months later.
Yeah, it was like, like just hearing that. But then in fall of 17, that's where they were like, we were at Big Round Top, and they were like, oh, check these areas out. Because we were looking for artifacts or stuff that we could find and like hold of what they had back at the time. I remember, and we brought friends different times, and we were up there, not to like take anything, but we were like, what can we bring to the museum or whoever, and be like, check this out, we just found this.
Yeah, and they don't, obviously they don't allow metal detectors and stuff, so that's against the law. But
so you can't do all that.
Actually, I think we will talk about, you found a relic. I think that, was it 17 or 18?
It was 17.
In 17, so that was July. So we skipped
July,
that. We missed that.
Yeah.
We forgot to say that. But we went with the Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
In 17. So 16 was the first year. 17
was the second and last year.
Yeah, the Days of Battle.
The Days of Battle, we were...
So tell them about that. So we were at, the McMillan Woods.
Yeah, so then we went out again, and...
So we're jumping back to a little bit to July. I think it was July 2nd.
Yeah.
This was the same. So we went a little too far ahead, but it's okay. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, definitely. And I remember July of 17... what I was seeing was like just kind of like the heads that were going around and like little pieces of like arms or stuff like that. So it was kind of like fading in and out.
They were trying to manifest.
It was like they didn't have enough to just be there. And then I remember the biggest and most important part was the end of that night, of one of the nights that we were there. Because when we were walking back into McMillan Woods at the mouth of where the roads all met up, the horse trail and
Confederate
whatever,
Way.
it all kind of met up from 3 into 1. So it was like a fork, basically, and that's where I remember it was like 8 to 10 guys, and they started cheering and chanting.
And you could see them solid.
Yeah.
What side were they for?
Confederate.
Okay.
Confederate. I
and
remember.
Did they look like they had been fighting? Were they wounded?
I remember back then, they weren't like overly, like messed up. Like you can tell. I remember I was like, okay, like they're a little dirty, but I mean, at the same time, had been camping, so you're like, we don't look perfect either.
True, and we were hiking during the day. We were hiking through the battlefield and checking out riding
different
bikes. I think too.
So that's where I kind of was at. I was like, okay, but then I remember they started chanting and like cheering. They're like, hey, like doing whatever, raising their guns up. I remember them raising their guns up because seeing the bayonets up in the air, and I was like, well, what's going on now? I was like, this is kind of strange behavior. Is this residual or is this now?
Right. Were they looking at you? Were they trying to engage with you?
I don't remember engaging.
Were they just celebratory?
They were just celebratory.
Yeah.
It was more so like they were doing their own thing. I was the observer from a Jafar.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on? The Boy Scouts, we were with the Boy Scouts. Some believed,
Probably
some
like
didn't.
10 to 15 of us.
Yeah, some made up some shit along the way, which we were like,
Well, we could.
At that point, we could call them out.
Right,
Be like, well, actually, you didn't see shit. So that's where a little bit of mockery comes in, and that's where you get upset as being someone who sees stuff, and then someone's like, I just saw someone, I saw a Confederate soldier wave at me. Like, bullshit. Like, in that moment, we will just say that was based off of a true occurrence that happened. And, someone claimed they saw something where they actually, in fact, did not. And...
Well, you could see that.
I saw the other side was pissed off.
I couldn't see that.
Yeah.
But you could.
Well, making a mockery out of the dead is something that you don't do.
Right,
because
total respect.
That becomes a part where you're disrespecting, like, what they've done and why they're there still. Because, think about it. What if you're stuck in an area where you don't want to be? Mm-hmm. You're just trying to get away. And someone's like, oh, I saw... so-and-so wave at me, like, I'd be pissed as shit. I'd be like,
I remember that distinctly because you were very upset.
I was like,
it was one of
I'm not even going to say the kid's name because he's a piece of shit.
Well, don't even,
already
that was weird. Well, that was again, that's why this episode is called The Awakening, because this is when Paul really, it came, to light, everything that he's talking about. And also that... When I'm talking more when we were actually at the campground there, what did you find?
Well, I found the backing of a canister
above ground.
Yeah,
in the
above
pricker,
ground.
In the thorn bushes.
And I thought it was a giant penny. I was like, what the hell is this?
Yeah, you showed us. We were checking it out. It was about.
And then I forget who told me to throw it back in the woods. I was like, all right, and I just threw it back in the woods. Not even thinking, because it was just a big piece of metal. I was like, perfect circle. Yep. I was like, oh, that's sick. And you could see rusting on it. You could see everything.
But when we went downtown, stopped to one of the shops, and we saw them. They were selling those. And then we're like, oh my God, that's what he found.
Yeah,
but we put it back to where it belongs. And so it's in a pretty secluded spot.
Yeah, I threw it back.
So we're hopeful that should stay. But that's the amazing thing about even Gettysburg after, now it's going to be 161 years this year, that there are still relics above ground through washout of areas. Look, they just last spring, they found, when they were metal detecting at Little Round Top, where they're doing some renovations, doing some walkways, they actually found unexploded canister. So that was on the news and everything. So that was 160 years later.
Yeah, you got to be careful. And, digging that. Boom.
So that's why they don't let you. They don't want you doing that. Once in a while, I think they have scientists and archaeologists or whatever with permits and knowing what they're doing.
So don't do it on your own, because if you die, you're not getting any benefits.
Plus, that's illegal. So
that
was pretty cool. That I thought, just finding that.
Well, holding it, I remember just being because I think we honestly, I remember throwing it in the fire multiple times because we were there multiple days.
Yeah.
And just keeping it in the fire pit. Yeah. And then goofing off with it, being check this giant penny out. Look how cool I am.
Yeah.
And then I forget exactly which adult was throw that back in the woods.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right. And I was the one who found it, and I was the one who threw it back into the woods.
Well, that's important, I think.
I could probably point someone which direction.
We don't even want to do that. We want to keep it where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So all right. Then we jump back to August, where we were. We finished August. We're in September, October. How much time we got there, brother?
We got time.
Okay. When you started to see them, to talk to them.
So I would say that was late fall of 17, late. You're stepping into early 18 at this point. But then when that started happening, where like personal conversations started, that's when it started going from like 0 to 100, and at this point you're just keeping up, because you're not ahead at any spot.
Right.
You're just like, what's the next part?
Right.
So,
well, we were intrigued. It was
weird.
It was crazy. It was awesome. We brought friends and friends with them, and would say, like, "What does Paul see? Who does Paul see? Who's he talking to?"
Yeah, and it was weird because like thinking back on that, it was like a trance. You open it up, you're just like looking around, like, whoa, I hear that, I see that. It's like almost like just an addition to what I had been seeing, like 3D glasses, but put it in 4D. So that's even crazier because that's real at that point.
Yeah.
And late 2017, that's when I was able to really, like, when they started being like, okay, you can see us, kind of. And since you can see us, I guess we can talk to you. Like, 20th Main was one of the beginning areas where some of the prominent figures who were there were like, all right, well, I'm just going to test this out and just see how you react. And, at the time, you see someone older than you talking to you, you're not going to be, like, shy away. Although, like, I was kind of like, I didn't know who it was, but seeing someone and not talking to them.
And you were, what, 13, 14 then? He was 13.
Yeah, so I was younger.
13, almost 14 at that point.
It took some stuff to talk back and be like, what's this?
Well, you remember you being nervous.
But I was pretty, like...
And again, so this, which is, I'm thankful and glad that we recorded this. So, Paul's voice is way higher. Yeah. But we will play some of those, so you'll hear that that's what we got live and what we asked Paul questions, and he tells us who's there. When he figured out who they are, they told us their names, which is incredible. And this is really amazing. That's why we're telling this, because it's blown us away, literally.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll have to... I'll have to, we'll put on some of the clips. I think they'll enjoy that for maybe, the next episode or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll definitely
put some pictures though.
Pictures from August.
And from the beach.
Definitely those will be implemented between those times.
August 22nd, 2017 was another, amazing night. So, what else you want to talk about before we jump into other things?
I think this is a great place to
end, because next will be...
Just pause it, because the next one's going to be... That's going to be a full one that might go into more than one.
Yeah, so exciting, though. Very exciting, like Paul said, but with this awakening, now he can actually see them. Yeah. They can see him. He can talk to them in his head.
Yeah.
Again, we could see orbs. We could hear things, too. All of us.
Yeah, all of us collectively, which it didn't change for that. But, like, talking to them, it was like how you and I are talking right now.
Like their accent from the south, you can hear them?
I would hear it, but it was like it wasn't like they were looking at me just going like...
Yeah, like the mouth was moving.
It was like their mouths were moving, and I was just like... Like, it was weird. It was, like, so real, but I also knew, because I knew, like, you guys didn't have... the hue on your arms.
Right.
So that's what the factor was. I was like, okay, so who's here and who isn't?
And it was bright.
It was bright.
Because it was
so
dark.
I could see it like through
darkness.
The trees, through the like heavy leaves and stuff like that. I could see people who were just like chillaxing in the back, stuff like that.
Wandering through, and you could see real living people. What they look like with flashlights, and there was we weren't the only ones that love this stuff. Obviously, there's many are drawn to Gettysburg. It's one of the most haunted places on earth, as you know.
Yeah.
But that was incredible, and we have way more to tell you. But we got to limit our episodes because we're going to put pictures on, and I think that's a good one.
Yeah, definitely. Well,
thank you. Stay tuned for more exciting stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So
Take care,
thank you
everyone.
very
Thank you
much.
for tuning in, and see you in the next one.
God bless America.
Take care.